Hello and welcome back. As we explore a world of endless applications, capabilities, and components that deliver great experiences composed by teams that are really distributed around the world, fusing together to build great experiences, it's imperative that they have a robust knowledge foundation to streamline operations, make the right decisions, and ultimately tailor those experiences down to every individual. If this is your first time joining the DXP track, my name is Alex Del Canto, Director of Product Marketing here at Acquia, and we're very excited to be joined by Amit Rai, Cloud Architect for Data and AI at Google, to talk a little bit about the first-party data revolution and how brands can start to rethink how they're winning hearts, minds, and ultimately market share today in this new digital-first world that we live in. So welcome, Amit. Care to say a few words about yourself?
Thanks, Alex. Absolutely. So I am Amit Rai. I'm pretty passionate about data, machine learning, and modern any data-driven experiences. I've been working in this space for around 15, 16 years now. At Google, as a cloud architect for data and AI, I advise businesses or customers on how to leverage and activate their data, make most use of it, and as the more disruptive technologies come in, helping them adapt to these changes. So looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Likewise. So Amit, I think we can safely say that Google is pioneering the charge in terms of where the market is going for first-party data strategies. You've essentially forced everyone's hand to take a hard look at their strategies by removing support for cookies in Chrome first and foremost, which has I think the largest market share, second to none really, in the market, and everyone is ensued and followed, right? We've seen Apple do the same thing, seen Firefox do the same thing, and this has proliferated to other domains like email IDs and device IDs and so on and so forth. Why now? Why is this change so imperative now in the world? I think everyone has put cookies kind of center to their strategies, but perhaps they've not been the perfect strategy either.
Yeah, well, great question. So now that the cookies are like going away, so there are no two ways about it, right? Almost everybody has realized that cookies are going to go away now, and so I see this consensus building that cookies were never great to start with, right? So like it's human nature, right? If you lose something, you say that hey, it was not that great anyway, right? But essentially, if you look at it, right, so the way the cookies were activated initially, applied were most marketers were not using cookies because they were like the best tool out there. That was not the reason. They were using because cookies were mostly easily accessible. That was the easiest source of data they can get without putting in too much effort in building an extensive data platforms, right? And so because the data was available, most marketers were using that data anyway. Now, what has happened in past few years, there has been the consumers have become a lot more privacy sensitive. Right. There has been a lot more concerns around cookies and how this data has been collected, right? And the consumers are demanding a lot more privacy around what data is collected, why this data is being collected, right? And cookies were not very transparent to begin with, right? That's one of the key reasons in beginning to begin with, like why cookies, started to see some of the challenge from the end consumers itself. Now, there was a survey done by Salesforce a few years back where the consumer said that they really want businesses to anticipate and understand their needs, right? So the consumer want that experience, and then they understand that businesses need to collect that data, but they also want businesses to be very transparent about that data collection, right? How that data is collected. They want businesses to inform them like why they are collecting this data, and then consumers want control over that data. If they want this data to go away, then that should go away, right? And traditionally, cookies were the way cookies were organized. It was not very easy to do that. Also, what has happened because of this concern, now in past few years, users have decided to take the matters in their own hand, and they have adopted to use techniques like ad blockers. They've started using a lot more in private browsing tools and techniques, right? And what that is doing is basically it has cascading effect. Now, because the users are doing that, first, like you cannot target them, appropriately. But then also that user journey gets broken. The information that cookies used to provide around that user journey is not consistent anymore. So if you are kind of using that information to target users, those ads are not getting targeted, right? So at the end, what is happening is businesses are spending a lot of money on making incorrect targeting, and the consumers are getting annoyed because I was looking for a shoes and I'm getting targeted for a computer or something else, like for a shirt, and I don't know, like, why am I seeing this ad at all, right? So that user experience itself is deteriorating, and even though the businesses end up spending a lot more money, right? And finally, I think there are disruptive technologies around AI and machine learning, which is also playing a big part, right? So now, traditionally, cookies has been more of a reactive kind of thing, right? So if you kind of take a look at bulk of user journeys on your properties, on others' properties, right? And then based on that, you try to understand what the customer is looking for. With machine learning technologies now, there's a trend towards being predictive, right? Understand the user behavior and proactively reach out to the users even before, they have made certain decisions around buying the product, right? Drive more personalized consumer experiences instead of just tracking the what users are doing and just targeting based on that. So there are a lot of these things coming together at the same time, and that's why I think the cookies are going to go away anyway. And also there are, like, last but not least, there is regulatory pressure as well. There are GDPR, CCPA kind of changes, regulatory changes coming in, and similar laws are coming globally as well, right? Which demand businesses provide a lot more transparency to the user. They are very cognizant about the kind of data they are capturing, right? So all this coming together is impacting, is the kind of the reason why cookies were going away, but also the reason why cookies are not that effective anymore, right? So that's the long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's fantastic. And I did see a study by Epsilon, actually, which stated that about 80% of marketers were actually using cookies or rely on cookies. And to your point, it's quite an impersonal way of getting insight into who an individual is, what their goals are, what they're trying to actually achieve. And it's also quite inconsistent because you're really only getting a snapshot at the end of the day of what that person is doing. Then, maybe they clear their cache, they remove all the cookies, and you only have, a glimpse into what they were doing on the site at one point. But I think even more so, one of the problems that we've seen across the board is not just inconsistent targeting. Maybe you're looking at shoes and then you're getting targeted for a laptop, but it's what many businesses have started to infer on their customers based on some of the behaviors that they've seen from the cookies, which kind of speaks for itself in terms of just how important it is to put the control and have a great degree of transparency, but put that control back into the hands of consumers themselves to actually tell you what their preferences are, who they are as a person, and what information they want any business really to use about them to improve their targeting strategies and deliver a compelling and personalized experience to them. I think we as consumers, every single one of us wants that, right? We don't want to have to repeat ourselves 200 times at the end of the day. But sometimes collecting that information can be quite difficult. I mean, zero-party data and first-party data, frankly, is not a novel concept. But given how broadly cookies have been adopted, there are certain areas in which brands may need to refine their strategies. So, I mean, how can brands start to think about moving away from these cookies and collect information, this zero-party information, in a more direct manner, and ultimately provide consumers with access into what actually a brand knows about them and control into what they can delete?
Yeah, definitely. That's the perfect segue into where, like, I see most of the businesses heading, right? So if you think of that, right, so the consumers, they interact with businesses in lots of front, right? So they are interacting on the website, they are visiting the stores, they are interacting with the brands on the content that they create on social media, as well as through phone call conversations, through the customer support, through emails, right? And not everybody is even capturing all this data. Leave aside even using that data, most brands are not even capturing all those interactions, right? There is some interactions around shopping, maybe like web browsing, that gets captured, But how do you bring this together? What is the customer doing in store, right? If they are, so a great example is like if you're writing emails or chats, chatting with the customer support, right? Or if you're making a phone call. So these are three different modes of conversations, all trying to tell the same thing, that there's a customer who wants something from you. So the customer is making an outreach. They are reaching out to you because they want something, right? And that's a great source of information, right? So I think it's very important for brands to, first of all, having a cohesive data strategy to start capturing that data, bringing all that data, right? And now capturing the data is not enough, right? Because you don't want to be a company which is good at capturing data. You want to be a company who is good at understanding their customers because they have that data. So you have to be able to drive value from that data. And a very core aspect of that is bringing all this data together, that can provide you a full 360-degree view of your customer, right? So most of the time, when your users interact with you, you have a way to identify them, right? Either using mobile device ID, their email addresses, their name and zip codes, and there are different ways, right? But then there are also contextual signals that can help you identify the user as well, right? So there are different ways to do that. So the first and foremost is collect the data and build a context around that data or our customer, right? And customer data platforms are a great way to do that, right? Now, I've seen customers building their own data platform, but also it requires a significant technology investment on their side as well, which I think the companies are going to make over a period of time. But also a great way to start is basically using the cutting edge customer data platform which is out there as well. So at Google Cloud, we partner with Acquia, to provide the customer that experience, right? So the Acquia's Marketing Cloud provides that customer data platform out of the box, so customers can bring in their data and they can get the full 360-degree view of the customer, right? So that's one way to do it. But also, I'll encourage customers to not stop there, not stop at the marketing platform. Build a complete data platform, right? So that you can actually provide the whole experience around if a customer bought a shirt, what was the fabric of the shirt made of? Where was the shirt manufactured, right? This is all contextual information. Maybe a customer was triggered by where the shirt was manufactured, right? And maybe that's why they bought it. So having that holistic information is basically a good way to approach the future of where you're headed.
I love that. Yeah. And that's a great point, because it's not just about collecting the information, but it's about providing access to all of these insights to every employee that needs to make these decisions and actually execute these customer experiences and decide how to target every person at the individual level, right? And so I think this is a really great segue to our last question, which is, when you look to an organization, right? The amount of data is scaling exponentially every day that we collect, right? And to drive these insights, we really do need machine learning at the end of the day, but we also need that machine learning to be able to not just predict what is coming down the line, what the next best experience should be, but ultimately inform every employee of what they should be doing in order to help progress that customer's journey, whether it's online, with a rep in a store, in your call center. It doesn't really matter. So Amit, maybe you could just speak a little bit about how Google is approaching machine learning and AI, and the benefits that having access to that for every employee, not just at the data scientist level, can really supercharge a business.
Yeah, absolutely. So machine learning is definitely this disruptive technology, which is going to impact every aspect of the consumer experience, right? So as I talked about, right? So there are stuff around consumers, so you can recommend them products, you can suggest them what they can do, but there are also, machine learning is also impacting the organization itself, right? So for example, we have a solution called Contact Center AI. Now, what Contact Center AI does is it just revolutionizes the contact center experience without the customers having the expertise in machine learning, right? So the solution kind of plugs right into the contact center, right? It helps agents, contact center agents, basically advise how they should respond to their customers' queries as they are talking to the customer, making them more productive. But then it also provides businesses very useful insights behind the scene, that this is what the customer was looking for, right? This was the key pain point, and this is the information that they can aggregate after the fact to drive meaningful insights, right? And similarly, we have products like a Cloud Search, or for retailers, basically, where the customers can actually embed the best of their recommendation, best of search, everything within one product. So the search experience for every customer is then different, right? So, and same capabilities can be extended to the employees within the store as well, right? So we are kind of our theme is to democratize AI through Google Cloud Platform, and in that spirit, basically, what we want is to make sure that the organization who don't even have these deep expertise in AI and machine learning, they can also enable these solutions.
Absolutely, and ultimately unified across that customer data platform and democratized, across an organization, so that all of these teams can actually derive these insights. Amit, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. For all of our guests, please stay tuned for our next session, where we will be joined by Johan Bostrom from InRiver, and talk about how we're actually delivering these experiences on the site in any channel. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.